So as the name indicates, it is a chapter that is concerned with how different substances are transported. And since you already know, you've done nutrition in plants with me, you've done photosynthesis with me. Yes?
Yeah.
So then you, of course, you know what xylem is and what phloem is. So basically this chapter, the entire chapter revolves around substances which are transported by xylem, how they are and why they are, what are the factors controlling them, and also substances that are transported in the phloem. So very simply stated, we would say that xylem is responsible for the transport of water and mineral salts from the roots to each and every part of the plant, right? Because without water, there's no life, and of course, mineral salts as well. Whereas phloem is responsible for transporting sucrose and amino acids to all parts of the plant. But then, of course, sucrose and amino acids will be made in the leaf. So from the leaf, they will be transported to other leaves, to stems, to flowers, to fruits, which means in the upwards direction also and in the downward direction also. So this is how we teach children that, we draw a diagram and then we tell them that, look, this is a plant, okay? And let's say this is the root and these are the leaves, drawing some leaves, and then there is a flower and there's a fruit also, right? So if I want to talk about the direction of the flow of substances in phloem, I would say it's two directional. Why? Because substances which are transported by phloem are made in the leaves. Made in the leaves. What is made in the leaves? Sucrose and amino acids are made in the leaf. So substances are made here. So they, of course, this substance needs to be transported here also, and here also, here also, upwards also, to the flower also, to the fruit also. And besides that, the same sucrose and amino acids needs to be transported downwards also. So this means that if I have to talk about the direction of flow of substances carried by phloem, I would say the direction is two directional, upwards as well as downwards. This is the important point to remember actually. Two directional, right? Upwards and downwards.
So this is phloem, right?
This is phloem.
Which carries the sucrose.
And amino acids.
Okay.
And if we talk about xylem, so for that,
Xylem
of course,
carries mineral ions and water.
water and ions. Now see, water and ions are in the soil. So the direction has to be upwards only, because they will start from here, okay? They'll go upwards and they'll keep on moving. This is all up, right? Here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Miss, my main question is that you know how you said that the phloem transports sucrose along with amino acids? So you said it's two directional, meaning that it goes upwards and downwards. So it goes downwards to the roots because roots need energy in order to extract the water and ions from the ground, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. And then it transports upwards. Okay. That
Exactly.
makes
And
sense.
then remember, I've done active transport with you as well, right?
Yeah.
So did we do active transport in root hair cells?
Like in detail, Miss?
A little bit.
I remember you telling me about the roots and the root hair cells, along with them having like long processes, which basically have a large surface area to volume ratio and are extremely thin. So they help absorb water and nutrients and help increase the rate of diffusion.
Did we
I
talk
remember.
about active transport in root hair cells?
No, I don't think we did, Miss. No.
Okay, fine. So the active transport is a mechanism by means of which substances are moving against the concentration gradient with the help of energy from mitochondria. So just now you were talking about energy. So of course that energy can only be there if we have a certain substrate, and that substrate is sucrose or glucose, right? And then the question arises, another question, that the most frequently done mistake by students is that whenever they are asked about the name of the substance which is transported by phloem, so the first answer that comes out is glucose. Okay, so glucose is not transported, and there is a reason for this, and I'm going to mention this reason. So the question is that why doesn't phloem transport glucose instead of sucrose? Any idea?
Why doesn't phloem transport glucose instead of sucrose? This is because glucose cannot be transported. They need to be converted into sucrose in order to be transported throughout the plant. Right?
Really? But see, technically, I think glucose should be transported because the plant will only use glucose for cellular respiration to get
Okay,
energy.
that miss sucrose is composed of glucose along with fructose, right?
Mhm.
Does that mean that are fructose produced within plants?
It can be made within plants, yes.
So then isn't it better to bind glucose along with fructose and then transport it as sucrose? Because that'll transport more substances.
Yes, that might be a reason, but actually the reason is that glucose is very highly reactive. Okay, this is the reason. So substances which are highly reactive, they change the osmotic properties, isn't it? They change the water potential. Yes or no?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So glucose is highly reactive and it might not be an ideal substance for transport because it will lower the water potential. And so this means that sucrose, in comparison to glucose, is less reactive. When you're done writing, let me know.
All right.
How does a xylem look like? Okay, so you can see that um, it's a thick cell wall containing a protein which is known as lignin, which you can see on the labeling. Thin area of the wall is also shown to you. Okay, there are no end walls. End wall meaning you don't see xylem like this. For example, okay, the end walls are lost. So when the end walls are not there, it appears that it's a continuous hollow tube. So the xylem is made up of many cells. I would say that maybe in the initial stages, in the developmental stages, maybe this was one cell, okay, and this was another cell and so on. And then as xylem matured, the end walls were lost. They were completely lost. And because of that, it now appears to be a long hollow tube whose function is just like a hose pipe, a pipe which is completely dead, does not have any living structures like cytoplasm. And the reason for all this is that, when cells are living and when they have cytoplasm, so of course this means they have organelles also. So in that case, what will happen? This will result in the impedance to the flow of water. For the flow of water to happen unimpeded, unblocked, we need a vessel which is completely dead, which is only surrounded by cell walls, which itself is a dead structure. And the cell wall is made up of a protein which strengthens it. Okay, lignin plays a role in strengthening the cell wall. So that completely suits the function of the xylem, which is to function as a water carrying pipe. Is that understandable?
Yes, Mr. S.
Can you repeat what I said right now?
Yeah. So you basically said that there are different, like these type of cells are present, and what happens is that their end wall is removed, right? So that means that there is no cytoplasm or any other cell organelle structure that is present inside of these tubes. Hence, its main function is to act like a hose that transports water, right? A hose or something like normally like a pipe. So there's no living cells, there's no anything. It's just used to transport the substances up and down throughout the plant.
Okay, now answer my questions in yes or no. Does xylem
Okay.
have a cell membrane?
Does xylem have a cell membrane? Uh, does xylem have a cell membrane? No,
No. Does it have cytoplasm?
no,
Nucleus?
no,
Mitochondria?
no,
Ribosomes?
no.
Nothing. Okay. Does it have cell
Or
wall?
cell wall? No.
Yes. You can see in the diagram.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
All right.
So, yes,
Yeah.
when we were doing chapter cell, that time also I told you, and I'm repeating once again, the only part of the cell, which is the dead structure, is the cell wall. And all the other structures besides the cell wall are living. Xylem is a completely dead structure, 100% dead. It does not have any living contents, no protoplasm, no cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria, ribosomes, and so on. No vacuole. The only thing it has is the cell wall, and the composition of the cell wall is it contains another protein which is known as lignin. Although the cell wall is made up of cellulose, but besides that, it also has lignin in it. And lignin's function is to strengthen the cell wall. Why? So that the xylem doesn't collapse. Every water carrying pipe should be made up of a strong substance, isn't it? So that it has the capability to, uh, you know, allow the water
Like
to
withstand.
exactly withstand the pressure. So to withstand the pressure, we have this protein lignin. So lignin gives mechanical strength, right? And
All
then
right.
this is another picture which is showing you a scanning electron micrograph of xylem vessels in a plant cell. Lots of xylem vessels you can see, right? The parts
Yeah.
colored orange are made up of lignin. The biggest xylem vessel, which is in the center, which you can see is around 100 micrometers in diameter. Let's look at this. This was all which I told you right now. No cytoplasm, no nuclei. Their cell walls are made up of two substances, cellulose and lignin. Cellulose is a polysaccharide, lignin is a protein. Okay. Lignin is very strong, so xylem vessels help to keep the plants upright. Wood is almost entirely of lignified xylem vessels. By wood, I mean that whenever you see trees which are many, many years old, they have a woody stem, right? Young trees have a green stem, which is very soft, but old trees have woody stems. So actually the woody structure is because of this lignified xylem vessels, right? And then we have this table. In fact, I think we have, okay, fine. So I'm giving you 5 minutes, Hamza. You will read the adaptations, the feature of xylem, and the explanation how that feature helps in carrying out xylem functions. So basically, if I would summarize, I would say xylem has two functions: support, okay, and transport. So all the functions of xylem, they revolve around supporting and transporting. For supporting, it has certain structures, and how do those structures play a role? How do they work? That's a completely different mechanism. For transporting water and mineral salts, of course, xylem has certain structures, and then how do those structures play a part? That's a totally different story. So go through this. I'm giving you 5 minutes, and then we will have a discussion.
Says that the cells are dead with no content.
Okay.
The first point states that the cells are dead with no contents. Water can flow easily through the tube. This means that there is no blockage in a way. That if there are no contents present, that this means that the water can just flow downwards. Because if there were contents present, then obviously the water would have to go through the contents, which would basically decrease the amount of water going through, or what do you call stop it in a way. The second
Mhm.
point is that there are no cross walls between the dead cells. There is no continuous tube. There is a continuous tube for water to flow through all the way from the roots to the leaves. This means that the tube is basically the cells in the tube are basically linked or right beside with each other. So meaning that there is no kind of it's basically like the previous point. There is no blockage in a way. The water can just flow through easily,
Mhm.
continuously, all the way to the leaves from the roots. Then the third point states that the walls of vessels contain lignin, I believe, or ligin,
Lignin.
lignin. And
Lignin.
then it says lignin is a solid and makes sure the vessels stay open and do not collapse, allowing water to flow through easily. Which I'm pretty sure this is self-explanatory. Like I can't
Agreed.
like
Agreed.
simplify it into anything further
Correct.
because it's self-explanatory. The last one is the diameter of the vessels is between 15 nanometers to 200 nanometers. So this means that micro,
Micrometers.
micro, or nano. So then it says this is narrow enough to make sure the column of water inside them does not break, but wide enough to allow a lot of water to flow through. This simply means that the thickness of the wall is just enough to allow the water to pass through it, but also strong enough in order to sustain the pressure that is created by the water when flowing through it. Like it doesn't block anything or stop or reduce the amount of water. So the
Ve-
necessary amount of water is supplied.
Very good, very good. And what about all the functions that were listed on this page? They were related to facilitating transport, whereas the functions which are listed on this page are connected to making, like allowing the xylem to support itself in the upright position so that it doesn't collapse, or so that the lumen doesn't. The lumen actually is the empty space. Okay, every hollow tube every hollow tube has an empty space. For example, if I draw a tube like this, this empty space is known as the lumen. So we don't want the lumen of the xylem to decrease, or we don't want it to collapse. So to prevent collapse, we have this feature. And what do you understand by this?
By the walls of the vessels contain lignin, and it says lignin is
Lignin.
it's lignin. Sorry, I keep forgetting that. Lignin is a very strong and can support the great weight of even a heavy tree.
Yeah.
And leaves, xylem vessels, and vascular bundles help the leaf to be flat to and so something onwards. Uh, provide a large surface area to absorb sunlight. I mean, yeah, it basically states that it helps supports the structure of a tree, even though the tree might be really extremely large. Lignin can help hold it together and not fall down. And then it says that it provides like a large surface area for the tree to absorb sunlight, or sorry, on the leaf.
Hmm.
Uh, I can't say much on this. I can't say much on this because I
Hmm.
guess it's explanatory. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
It's not that explanatory, because see, in leaf, the xylem vessels in a vascular bundle help the leaf to be held flat. This actually means that, look here,
yeah.
I will draw to explain you. Now, when I'm drawing lines like these lines, it actually means that every line has two things in it. Black color is for the xylem and the red color is for the phloem. Okay, so I'm now drawing these two colored lines everywhere. So this means that these two vessels, namely xylem and phloem, are grouped together to form a bundle of vessels, and this bundle is known as the vascular bundle. Okay, this is what they are talking about. So the word vascular means vessel. So technically xylem is also a vessel and phloem is also a vessel. Like wherever you find veins in the leaf, or anywhere in the leaves or in the stem, wherever, every vein shows you that it's a group of vascular bundles, which is the xylem and the phloem in it, right? Now, on the previous page, they were talking about the fact, they were saying that xylem has lignin in it. Okay, now let me just try to make a connection between these two. It has lignin in it, and that lignin, which is somewhere here, okay, because this black thing is the xylem. So over here we have lignin, and lignin is a very strong substance. It's a protein, it's a strong substance. It keeps the xylem upright. Now, since there is lignin, it also enables the leaf to expand like this, okay, to stay upright, to remain in this position, okay, facing the sunlight, and also enabling the leaf to have a large exposed surface area so that it can face the sunlight. It's only possible because the xylem, which is contained in these vascular bundles, has lignin, because lignin allows the leaf to actually expand itself and stay flat like this so that it can face the sunlight. So then what we will say is that the xylem, which has lignin in it, allows the leaf to stay flat, expose its large surface area to the sun. Understood?
Yes, man. Xylem allows leaf to lay flat, expose its large surface area to the sun. All right, I get it. So basically means that the lignin allows it to lay flat in a way. Meaning that basically it's horizontal, right? Meaning that the maximum amount of sunlight is exposed to the leaf itself, or the leaf
Exactly.
is rather
Exactly.
exposed to the maximum amount of sunlight.
Hmm.
All right, that makes sense.
Hmm. Now, what your textbook wants you to understand, and that's the, I think, the easiest part, to know the physical arrangement of xylem and phloem in a root, in a stem, and in a leaf. So we'll begin systematically. We'll start with the root. Okay, so again, I'm drawing a plant. I'll be drawing it again and again. So this is your root. Okay. We said that we find xylem and phloem grouped together in the form of a vascular bundle in the root, in the stem, in the leaf, everywhere. But the way that they are arranged is different in a root, different in a stem, and different in a leaf. If I make a cross section of the root, which means if I cut the root like this, okay, I will see that the xylem and the phloem are arranged in this manner. The central part, which you can see, which is colored red, is the xylem, and the blue parts are the phloem. Okay, so what is this actually? What figure is this? This is the transverse section of a root. Let's say if you took a tiny root and you cut the root in this direction, in the horizontal plane, okay, you can call it a horizontal plane or you can call it a transverse plane, and then you cut the thinnest possible slice. For example, you can cut here, you can cut here, cut anywhere, and then you take that thinnest possible slide and put it on a microscope. So on the microscope you will be able to see that the xylem and the phloem are arranged like this. Xylem occupies the central core of the root, and the phloem is occupying the outer part of the root. For example, this entire thing which I am now highlighting with my red pen is the xylem. Okay, and then these blue patches, this blue patch, this one, these are all phloem. Is that clear?
Yes, miss.
Hmm? Acha.
So the blue ones are the xylem. Sorry, the blue ones are the phloem, and
Phloem.
the red ones are xylem. So xylems are much bigger than the phloems.
Huh, they're much bigger. Acha. And another thing is that there are some other parts also of the root that have been labeled over here. So this part, which starts from here to here,
Yeah.
is the cortex. It's a part of the root.
So what's the
Cortex.
function of the cortex?
What are you saying, Hamza? I can't hear you.
What's the function of the cortex?
The function of the cortex is that it has two functions. It stores food and it's a packing tissue. Packing tissue. Packing means it provides support. Okay, so it stores food and it's a packing tissue. And then you have endodermis. This is another tissue. Now, where is the endodermis? Let me just show you where it is. This one. This blue line, which you can see, this blue line. Can you see this thin blue line? This is also a layer of cells that surrounds the vascular bundle and it's known as the endodermis. If you want to know the function of endodermis, I would say it has a role in water transport, but I am not going to go into the details of it. You wait for to get yourself into AS level, and then you will study details about endodermis. And then of course we have the xylem and the phloem. So for your level, for IGCSE or for the O level, every student should know how the root looks like in a transverse section, how are the xylem and the phloem arranged, What is the name of this tissue? Cortex. What is the name of this tissue? And how, the xylem and phloem are arranged. In fact, you know what? They will give you a diagram in the exam, an empty diagram, okay? This is how questions are asked. They would just give you an empty diagram like this and ask you to draw the distribution of the xylem and the phloem as it would appear in the transverse section of a root. And you should know how to draw it. So of course, we are not testing your artistic skills. What you will do is you will just draw a small circle. First of all, just draw a small circle in the middle like this. Okay. And then the best thing would be to draw a figure like this. Okay. And then no need to color. You will label these as phloem and you will label these as xylem. This is cortex. This is endodermis. Yes, any questions?
No, miss, I'm all right so far.
Look at this. Look, the way in which the xylem and the phloem have been placed in the transverse section of a stem, and how different is it from the arrangement of xylem and phloem in the transverse section of a root? Can you make out the difference?
The difference between the xylem section and what, miss?
Okay, just a minute. I'll make it a little bit easy for you. Let's say,
No, I just want you to repeat the question, please.
okay, I'll repeat the question. The question is that the distribution of the xylem and the phloem in the root is a bit different from the distribution of the xylem and the phloem in the stem, which you can see on the screen right
Yeah.
now. How different it is?
It's different in such way that in a root cell, right? The phloem is found on the circumference on the cell. However, the xylem is only found in the center of the cell. So xylem is only present in the center of the cell, and phloem is present in 5 different sections around the circumference of the cell. However, in the stem cell, right, if you can see that the xylem and the phloem are linked with one another, meaning that they're right beside each other. So the number of xylem present in a stem cell are much greater than the number of xylem vessels present in the root cell.
Okay, fine. Can I say this? Okay, can I say that, for example, now see, let me just draw a bigger one. This is the vascular bundle of a root. Okay? And in the root, the phloem is like this, isn't it? This is the phloem, and all this is the xylem. Xylem, xylem, xylem. This is how the root looks like. Okay.
All right.
So can I say that in the root, the xylem and the phloem are lying at different radii of the circle, whereas in the stem, the xylem and the phloem are lying along the same radius?
Yes, you can.
Can I say that? Okay, because you
Yes.
see, if this is a circle, then these are its radii, isn't it? So if I
That's
draw,
right.
yes, if I draw different radii in a stem, I would see that the xylem and the phloem are lying along the same radius. Whereas if I draw these radii over here, I would say that the xylem and the phloem are found on separate radii. So with that, you can just note down this point and then I will end my lesson today. So you will say that the xylem and phloem they lie on the same radii in the stem. In the root.